Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be going through my 2021 rod and reel arsenal. Let's get into it. If you're new to my channel, go ahead down below and hit the subscribe button for me. I'm trying to reach at least 1,000 subscribers, so that would be greatly appreciated, and you won't miss any more of my bass fishing tips or videos. So let's get into the rod and reel arsenal. These are going to be the rods that I take with me for every tournament throughout the year and fish with in every video for the year. I think I have around like 15 rods, somewhere in there. 2 of them are not going to have reels on them. I'm still waiting for a couple reels to come in. As you know, I probably know, it's very hard to get fishing tackle right now, so I'm still waiting on getting reels for those rods, but I should have them just in time for the tournament season, which is going to kick off next month. April 3rd will be my first tournament. So let's start. We're going to start with the lightest one, and we're going to go all the way up to the heaviest rod that I have. A couple of them are duplicates, so I'll try and breeze through a couple things so this video isn't forever. So the first rod up on the list here is actually a custom rod that I built myself. This is a 6'9" medium light drop shot rod. It has a very fast tip on it, but it has a little bit of backbone down in here. This is super helpful for fishing like small Ned rigs or any type of finesse bait like that. It only works with like open hook baits, so a small Kitech on a jig head or a drop shot or a Ned rig, something like that. If you throw something like a shaky head on this, you'll lose fish every single time just because it doesn't have enough backbone to actually set the hook through the plastic. So I use this on my very, very finesse techniques, and I have it paired up with a 2500 Shimano Sedona. This is by far my favorite budget spinning reel out there. I think they run like $60 now. They're amazing. Like I have some that are 10 years old. They've lasted me forever. So that's an awesome rod and reel combo that I like to have for fishing very small finesse baits. This is going to be a duplicate here. I have 2. These are the exact same setup. The only difference is the color. These are 2 custom rods as well that I built myself. They're both 6'9" medium action rods. These ones have a little bit of a faster tip, so they have more backbone to them because the tip doesn't flex as much up top. So more backbone means I can set the hook with shaky heads or Texas rig drop shots or other different types of baits like that where you have to get the bait or the hook through the bait. So that's what I use these for, as well as the same small Ned rigs, drop shots, and other finesse baits like that, because they do have a lot of sensitivity. These are on some higher modulus blanks that I built these on. Again, 2 2500 Shimano Sedonas, the exact same reel that was on the other one. They're almost identical spinning rods, except that one's a little bit lighter. So I use these ones for a little bit heavier baits. All of them will be spooled up with 15-pound braid when the tournament season comes around. I like to use braid on all my spinning rods, and I tie fluorocarbon leaders onto all my braid depending on the conditions. I usually use either 6, 8, or 10-pound test, with 8 being the most common. But those are my spinning rod setups. I only have 3, and that's what I fish with for the most of the year. I don't like using a spinning rod that often, so I try to avoid it. Getting into the first bait casting rod that we have here, this is actually one that I'm going to be waiting on a reel for. It's going to have a 7:1-to-1 gear ratio reel on it, and this is a 7-foot medium power fast action Dobyns Fury series rod. The specific model is the 703C. I use this one for jerkbaits in the springtime. I'll have it spooled up with 12-pound fluorocarbon. I can use it for jerkbaits. I can use it for crankbaits if needed sometimes. It has a little bit of a backbone to it. It's not as moderate as the crankbait model that they make, but I can throw crankbaits on it if needed, but usually I just use it for jerkbaits. Once summer comes around, I'll take that 12-pound test fluorocarbon off of here. I'll put 30-pound braid on it, and then I'll use this same rod for topwaters like spooks and poppers and buzzbaits and whopper ploppers and anything like that. That way the braid floats and I can fish it effectively. Next up is going to be another Dobyns Fury series rod. These are one of my favorite rods. You'll see a couple of them throughout the video here. This is going to be the 705CB. This is actually their crankbait series. It's a medium heavy medium heavy moderate action, sorry. So this one's going to have some flex to it to allow me to throw those crankbaits. I can throw jerkbaits on it, but you lose a little bit of the sensitivity because of that moderate action, and you can't snap the bait as well, so it doesn't really dart as well. So I tend to just use this for crankbaits. And then I have a Lose Tournament Pro and a 6:3-to-1 gear ratio to really help me slow it down while I'm reeling those crankbaits on this rod. I'll spool this up with 12-pound fluorocarbon as well. and I'll use it all year round, straight crankbait fishing with it, whether I have a flat side on in the spring or a square bill in the summer or any type of crankbait. The only thing I won't throw on here is anything that really goes deeper than about 12 foot. The biggest crankbait I've ever put on this rod is a Spro rock crawler, and other than that, I'll put a 6XD or a 5XD on a different rod. Up next is going to be another crankbait rod. This one is actually going to be the Powell crankbait rod. This is a Powell Inferno. I actually don't think they make these anymore. They might have something similar out on the market. I'll try and link as many of these products down below as I can so you can check them out. This is going to be the 704 CB glass. This is actually a glass crankbait rod. Again, it has that flex to it so you can really fish those treble hook baits well. And then I have a Lew's speed spool reel on here. This is the 6:3:1. This is just the basic speed spool. Again, helps me slow down with fishing those crankbaits. I like to fish a lot of crankbaits, so I have two almost identical crankbait rods just so I can have two different colors or depths or anything like that. In crankbait fishing, that kind of stuff is very important. Next rod in the arsenal is actually going to be another custom build by myself. This is a 7-foot medium heavy fast action rod. It is the most standard rod in bass fishing. If you can only have one, this is going to be the one you need to have. This is going to allow you to do pretty much everything from topwaters, spinnerbaits, Texas rigs, literally everything in bass fishing you can do with this rod. I have this spooled up with the newer Lew's LFS speed spools. This is a 7:1 gear ratio. That's the one I like to fish the most, just because I can always slow my reeling down to reel slower, but if I need something with higher gear ratio to speed up, I'd rather have something that has the gear ratio already than trying to reel extra fast with a 6:3:1 gear ratio. This I'll usually spool up with 15-pound test fluorocarbon, but it can change throughout the year depending on where I'm fishing and what I'm doing. I've had it as low as 12-pound test to fish flukes in some really clear water, and I can go all the way up to 20-pound test if I need to flip into some heavier cover or something like that. But this is a pretty all-purpose rod that I use for just about everything. Next one up in the arsenal is going to be another Dobyns rod. This one is going to be the 704C, which is a medium heavy fast action, just like that last build that I did for myself. Same length, same action. This is just the Dobyns Fury Series option. And then I have that one paired with a Bass Pro Pro Qualifier reel. Again, in that 7:1 gear ratio, I really like that for these all-purpose rods. I can do everything with that combo right there, a 7:1 gear ratio of your favorite reel and a 7-foot medium heavy rod. And then I'll spool this up with 15 regularly, but I can vary it from 12 all the way up to 20, and even I put braid on it sometimes, 30-pound braid to fish in some grass with like swim jigs or speed worms. Next one's up on the list. This is going to be another duplicate again. These are two exact Dobyns 7'3" medium heavy fast action rods. Waiting on a reel for this one as well. These are going to be this is the second one that I'm waiting on a reel for. But these two rods right here, they're a 7'3" medium heavy fast action. This is the 743 from Dobyns Fury. Again, 7:1 gear ratios will be on both. And this is another all-purpose rod. This one just has a little bit more length. I'll spool these up with 15-pound test regularly again, and I'll vary it depending on what I'm doing, and can even put braid on them to do pretty much anything with these two rods as well. Next up on the list here, probably one of my favorite rods out of the arsenal. If you are looking for a new chatterbait rod, this is the one. I literally only fish chatterbaits with this rod. Occasionally I'll put a deep diving crankbait on here if I need to throw a deep diving crankbait, but I will put a chatterbait on this rod 95% of the time. It will always be spooled up with 20-pound fluorocarbon. That's what I like to fish my chatterbaits on. There will be a video coming out later this year entirely about this setup and how to fish chatterbaits and how I like to rig my system up. So if you'd like to see that, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. This is the Dobyns Champion Series. This is the 736 CB glass. It's a glass rod, so it has the moderate fast action, but this is an extra heavy. Like, it has a lot of backbone to it. So you can drive that single hook in, but it won't, when the fish come up and get it, you can make sure they have that bait all the way in their mouth. I have stopped losing fish on chatterbaits with this rod. I very rarely lose one once I switched up to this rod, and you can still snatch it through the grass. Works excellent, and I put it with a Lew's Tournament Pro speed spool in the 6:3 gear ratio as well on here. This is an awesome rod. Again, if you're looking for a chatterbait rod, I'll link this one down below. This is the one that you want to check out. Next up is going to be my jig rod, or even heavy Texas rigs if I'm flipping bushes or something like that. This is going to be another custom rod built by me. This is a 7'3" heavy power fast action. So this has some real backbone to it. This is actually the same rod that I caught my 31-pound bag down in Florida with, fishing that Texas rig in under docks and stuff. If you want to see that video, I'll link it down below. But this rod can handle them. It's heavy, not heavy to hold, but it's heavy action. And I fish all my single hook jigs, Texas rigs, stuff like that. Have the Lew's LFS speed spool on here again, 7:1 gear ratio. I'd love to have that fast gear ratio for fishing jigs and Texas rigs where you need to set the hook and get them out fast. This rod will almost always be spooled with 20-pound test. Occasionally I'll drop it down if I need to go lighter, or I'll put some braid on here if I need some flipping grass abilities. Next up on the list is going to be my last Dobbins rod. This is going to be the 735C. It's a 7'3" heavy power, fast action. I'm going to use this for jigs as well, or heavy Texas rigs. If I need to flip, I can put 20-pound test on it and use it like that. But what I use this one for the most is some light punching and mostly frogging. So I'll put 65-pound braid on this for the most of the year. I'll fish frogs with it. I'll put a 1-ounce tungsten and flip heavy grass with it. This can handle up to 1.5 ounces, so I mean, this has some serious power to it. Most of the time I'll leave the braid on there, and this is what I'll use this rod for, frogs and punching most of the time. This is the Lew's Tournament MB that I have on here, and it is in the 8:1 gear ratio. I like a really fast speed for frogs and flipping and stuff like that. So that's all I really use this rod for, so I like the fastest gear ratio possible I can get on this rod. Last rod in the lineup here today, this is going to be the Powell Inferno. Again, I don't think they make this one, but I'll try and find something comparable. This is the 765 is the model number. 7'6", mag heavy, extra fast action. This thing has some meat to it. It's almost like a broomstick. Handles up to 2 ounces. Have it spool paired with a Revo SX in the 7:1 gear ratio. Is I put 65-pound test braid on it, and I fish either frogs or punching with it, or mostly I fish the Alabama rig with this in the fall. I'm very excited to get out this fall and get some footage of throwing the Alabama rig. In the summer I'll use it for punching and flipping and throwing a frog, but in the fall and sometimes in the spring I'll use it for the Alabama rig. That's pretty much all I use this rod for. I hope you enjoyed today's video talking about my rod and reel arsenal for the tournament season. I can't wait for it to start. It's only about a month away, and then we'll have bass fishing videos coming every week. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe down below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, and thanks for watching.